lighting or the Mics are live. Share screen. Okay, there. We'll share it. Okay. No problem.
Can you hear us, Bob?
I can hear you.
Bob, can you hear us?
This session. It's fine.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I very.
Yeah.
Ironically, you guys are very loud.
I'm not gonna vote on anything.
It's nice to have it flipped around for once in a while. Can you hear me any better now?
Well, then.
One more time. Can you talk for us?
Test, test, test.
It's really quiet. I can at least hear him now.
I don't have any way to turn the microphone up anymore. Hold on, let me try. Yeah, no, that's what I got.
Talk again.
Test, 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 test.
Is that good enough for everybody? It's still low, but it's about as high as we can pump it.
Like, you know, recording something.
Can you check your recording? One more time, Bob. Try that.
Hello, test, test, test.
Okay, that's good.
All the time. Every day. I bet you're gonna type. Yeah. I've been trying to. There you go. I'm connected now. Yep. Okay, thank you. Now it says connection is time. I'm back up. After we presented it, council stood up and gave us a standing ovation. And council was a hard. Ready?
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:01. We'll go around, present ourselves. I'm trustee Pryor.
Trustee Gauze,
Trustee Paige Barnum.
Trustee Dallas.
Trustee Masinski.
Trustee Robinson.
Trustee Way and trustee West are not currently here at the moment. Oh, and Christian Prosinski, thank you. We also are here with,
hi, Andrea Nicolai, Executive Director.
Adam Stump, Director of Finance.
And Sean Smith, Board Treasurer.
do we have any public comment? Okay. Everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? The operating check register, please. Everyone had a chance to look at that. Any questions? The capital fund? I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda, which includes the minutes, the check registry, and the capital fund. All in favor? Aye. The finance memo? Oh. One nay. One nay. Trustee Gauze. Sean, with the finance memo?
Good evening. The reports for this meeting cover December 2023, which was 50% of the way, our way through our 2024 fiscal year. Halfway through the fiscal year, trends seen in prior months continue. Our support and revenues were slightly over the modified budget, while expenditures are modified budget. Payroll and costs, along with occupancy costs, to be the main expense categories trending under budget. I'll turn it over to Adam.
Thank you, Sean. So our national grid bills for the month of December were over $12,000 less than what they were in December 2022. And the LED lighting installation is presumed to be the driving factor behind this cost reduction. And full-time vacancies within our staffing model continue to be the primary reason why our overall expenditures remain under. Anyone has any questions on any reports? Be happy to address this. Thank you.
Thank you. Capital fund? No questions. Okay. Anyone have any questions on the capital fund report? Cash and investment summary? Any questions? Okay, thank you. Committee and liaison reports? Anybody? The trust, yeah, the nominating committee had met. Trustee, oh, yeah, trustees reporting out. Anybody have any interesting stories for this week, this month?
Yeah, after last month's meeting, I had the opportunity to attend a documentary showing here at the Washington Avenue branch concerning human trafficking. The documentary was focused down in New York City, but subsequent to the showing of the documentary, they had a panel with various domestic abuse and child services providers here in Albany County, really contextualizing the documentary we just saw. It was a very well-attended program with a pretty robust discussion with the panel and questions from the audience afterwards. So it was, moving, and I think shows the power of the library to advocate for communities in need and build our awareness around pressing issues in our in the Capital District. So.
Anyone else? Well, I had the opportunity last night at the Arbor Hill branch to see some very fine art by Holy Names that was displayed for the Black History Month exhibit. So they did a very excellent job with that. So it was nice to see. Any upcoming events? How was the did anyone attend the Speak Out Day for the library advocacy?
Yes, I was there and Trustee Way was there and I think Trustee Dallas was there, although I think Trustee Dallas was there in the capacity of Executive Director of SALS. But Arlene and I met with the other representatives from Upper Hudson and delegates, or rather, the representatives of Assembly Member Pat Fahey and Senator Neil Breslin. And it was really good to cover all the talking points, and they are both extremely supportive of public libraries in this state, and we expressed our gratitude to them as well, their representatives, that is. So yeah, overall, successful day, I would say, successful advocacy day, and looking forward to that continued support.
Thank you all for going, being a beacon of hope for the library. All right. Okay. Trustee Way isn't here for the UHL report, but it is one listed. The meeting was called to order by the president, Susan Keitel, at 4:36. The director's report, the final meeting scheduled for UHLS meeting scheduled for 2024 Library Advocacy Day complete. UHLS provided training opportunities and was expanded in response to increased need resulting from the New York State trustee training requirements, and UHLS planning for a new website. The committee reports the finance November and December 2023 financial reports, and the purchase of journals was adopted. They didn't have any old business or new business. And then they provided a text for ALA advocacy updates to contact 716-271-2182. And the meeting was adjourned at 5:45. The Audit and Finance Committee report.
We're going to talk about a little bit more in detail later in the agenda, but we went through the budget line by line. We were very impressed with the financial stability and the financial management done by Andrea and her team. And what we are going to be recommending is a modest increase, which would be $8.49 per year for an average home later on. And then to remind you, later in the month, we're going to have the official budget vote.
Later in the month, the budget meeting will present the full budget, and then the vote will take place at the March meeting.
Right, but we have a meeting at the end of this month to go through it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, now nominating committee.
All right. Hi, everybody. So we met last Monday on the 5th, and we're working towards the election. So some details that are useful for everyone to know. The election is going to be held on May 21st. The signatures are going to be due around April 27th. candidates are going to need to obtain at least 42 signatures. And there are going to be 3 seats vacant this term, 2 full terms and 1 term of 1 year to replace Trustee McCarthy. If anyone is thinking about leaving the board, it would be really helpful to let us know so that we can work on recruiting more than just the 3. And in terms of outreach, the nominating committee would like to reach as many potential candidates as possible. We discussed if it was feasible for someone to be present at each of the upcoming neighborhood meetings or various tenant organizations, but decided that that would be spreading folks really, really thin, as there are 28 neighborhood associations in the city of Albany. However, the Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations, otherwise known as CANA, brings together representatives from all of these different organizations. They will be meeting on March 6th, and we would like to ask them or provide them information about the upcoming election. However, we can't do that unless we have officially notified the school district of the vacancies and our intent to have an upcoming election. Anyone, please correct me if I'm getting any of these details wrong on that. So we, and I'll talk about it in a smidge more, would like to bump up the timeline and announce that earlier than in previous years. We are hoping to work with Erica to identify 2 different dates for information sessions so that we can reach an array of citizens in Albany. We're hoping to do a weeknight at Arbor Hill, West Hill branch, and a weekend at the Pine Hills branch. Erica is going to send out polls to the board to see what days are the best and who can attend. You do not have to attend one of the information sessions. It is purely for us to provide information to potential candidates. So as many different viewpoints helps, but it's certainly, not a requirement of your board participation. And looking at the calendars, the first Tuesday of May is when the Meet the Candidates Forum is traditionally held, and that is May 7th, and that is held here in the Washington Avenue branch. So to be able to facilitate as much outreach as possible, with as much time for people to think about it and pass the word along through their networks, the nominating committee would like to hold a vote during the February 27th budget meeting to hopefully pass a resolution to announce the upcoming vacancies and intent to hold elections. That will just give us the official start to be able to release the press releases and all of the information out there to get everything really rolling. If there's thoughts or questions about that, feel free to reach out. I will work with Andrea and Bob, I assume, to come up with the correct wording for the resolution that we would like to officially propose and hopefully pass in February. Usually this starts in March, so we're not terribly ahead of schedule, but we're a little bit ahead of schedule, and we would like to be so, just with the hopes that it can really give us a little bit of extra boost in recruiting candidates. So as an overview of those upcoming dates, the 27th, we'd like to present the resolution. Our next nominating committee meeting is going to be on the 4th. It's the first Monday of every month. The CANA meeting is on the 6th. Then there will be the information sessions, followed by the Meet the Candidates Forum on the 7th of May, and then the election on the 21st of May. And that's our update.
What is it February 27th? Is it February 27th?
Yes,
I believe that's the night we meet for the budget.
yes,
Okay.
yes, that we're hoping to piggyback on the budget meeting for this quick vote.
Less is better.
Okay, any questions for the nominating committee? Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you. Very detailed.
Everyone.
And now policy and governance, committee report.
Yes, policy and governance met yesterday, the 12th, at the Arbor Hill branch. The resolution for that meeting was pushing forward the bylaws with no changes. Being that there are no changes, to the bylaws, they were reviewed, recommended to the board, we can vote on them. The policy and governance committee is okay with the board doing, whichever. We have another meeting scheduled for later in the month for, to prepare for our March, board meeting as well. Thank you.
Any questions in regards to policy and governance? Thank you, trustee Goss.
Welcome.
Okay, some committees did already state their upcoming committee meetings, but are there any others? Thank you. Director's report.
Okay. In my introductory summary there, I'm calling out the fact that we started off the new year with some highs and lows. We continue to see a lot of incidents across the district, people experiencing mental health crises, addiction and substance abuse problems, and general struggles that make it challenging for them to be in the library space. However, we also had a number of highs, and I wanted to specifically highlight what the head of community engagement has been doing to get our workforce pipeline in motion. We have 2 new digital navigator assistants that are funded by the Carl Tui Foundation, and they have started working at Washington Avenue, Delaware, and Pine Hills. And our digital navigators are basically there to enhance our staff's ability to meet the needs of the public with 30-minute sessions on computer basics. And we promote these sessions with flyers that are at every reference desk and instructions as to how to book a one-on-one computer session. And we also, the head of community engagement, also worked with Albany County Probation to place 2 youths who need community service hours at Bach and at Arbor Hill West Hill, and that program is going well. And our hope is that, of course, everyone involved in these programs has a positive experience in the library and that they become interested in library work and, learn a little bit more about what it's like to be part of a library team. Moving on to the safety section, I do want to spend a little time on this because we did have a high level of incidents in January. I did break that down a little bit for you. Of the 16 loss of library privileges letters that unfortunately I had to issue in the month of January, a number of them were related to groups of patrons who were involved in physical fights, one of which happened at Howe, another happened here at Washington Avenue, and a group of young people who abused library computers and property at Delaware. So I note that because 16 is a high number of loss of library privileges letters, but like I said, a number of them were related to groups of patrons that we could identify, and staff really appreciate it that we take action to basically ask these people to stay away from the library for a while and learn a little bit more about our behavior policy and the expectations that we have for the library space. I also include my direct phone number in letters, especially for any juvenile patrons who we have to issue a 1 month or, unfortunately, in some cases, a 3-month loss of library privileges letter to. I don't want it to be hard for parents and caregivers to follow up with me when they have concerns about their children being asked to stay away from the library. It's pretty much, it's the hardest thing that we have to do when it comes to imposing a restriction on our patrons, restricted access on our patrons. So I want to make it easy for parents and caregivers to appeal these letters and make things right and have a conversation with us, with their child, so that they can use the library again. So I wanted to note that for you all in the community, because we are seeing these high levels of incidents. And next month, you'll see probably a few more loss of library privileges for juveniles in relationship to the teen problems that we've had at Delaware, which have fortunately subsided in the last few days. So it's a good thing. And I wanted to note that we've begun meeting regularly, APL staff and Friends and Foundation staff, namely the grants writer for the Friends and Foundation, a woman by the name of Karina Wajnar, who actually is also a grants writer for Albany Center Gallery and has extensive experience connecting nonprofits with grant opportunities in this region. So we're really excited to work with Karina. We're in the process of identifying some areas of the library that would really benefit from some grant funding support. One area is the makerspace here at Washington Avenue. It's open for very limited hours right now, and we would love to enhance those hours, especially with the summer months coming and opportunities for youth being needed in the city of Albany. So looking forward to those efforts continuing. Our statistics are well, we'll get to those after my report, but I also wanted to call attention to our celebrating Black History Month programs in February with focus on Black artists, musicians, and creators. Of course, this is an annual focus that we have at the library. President Pryor alluded to the display at Arbor Hill West Hill. We also have, in addition to displays, which are not on this list, a number of programs for the community to enjoy. So I wanted to share those opportunities with you and with the listening public, and please come and enjoy some of those activities at the library. It's a whole range for all ages at all locations. And of course, it's tax season, so we have plenty of tax help available for patrons and tax forms. That's always a popular service that we get asked about, pretty much at the start of the new year. We're partnering with VITA and continuing to work with the New York State Tax and Finance Department on those. And then we have, of course, our series of branch-specific programming updates that you can read at your leisure. It's, again, a lot to mention in this section of the meeting. So I'll just skip down to our human resources report. Our human resources generalist, Irina Dacey, is doing a phenomenal job for us, moving our postings along, getting jobs advertised, and then the whole hiring process. And of course, Erica is also part of that process. She is the master scheduler for all interviews at APL. So Irina and Erica have been working together closely to fill positions here at APL, and that's going well. I think I'll wrap it up there. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Can I ask a quick question? When you were talking about providing your phone number so it's easy for parents and caregivers to appeal, is there like an actual process, or do they just talk to you?
It's a process in that in the letter itself, it says if you wish to appeal this, contact the executive director, and here's the name and number. I tip especially with young people, and this hasn't happened so much at APL so far, but then again, we haven't issued that many loss of library privileges to juveniles so far in my tenure anyway. And so parents basically start with a phone call. I then try to set up an appointment with the parent or the caregiver and the child, because I think it's important for all parties to be involved in the conversation about what our expectations are for behavior in the library. And, it would be a simple, like, here's what we observed on this occasion. Here's what's problematic about that. Here's what creates an unsafe environment, an unwelcoming environment because of this behavior. And here's what we expect. I envision these being very short conversations where the kid basically either, owns it and says, okay, ready to come back and abide by the behavior policy, or, conversely, the parent might uphold the library ban for a while, although I wouldn't expect that most parents would do that, but that's how the process is meant to go.
Thank you. I also noticed I was kind of disappointed that I wasn't able to attend the January 15th, the Right to Read in partnership with Capital Rep. I had another, I think it was a day off, so I wasn't home.
Tried to get
Can't do it all.
multiple times
Tickets
and
were
I
out.
couldn't.
Yeah, the tickets did sell out. I mean, they were free. The tickets were free, but they did sell out, quote unquote, rather quickly due to the efforts of pretty much all the partners involved. The Red Bookshelf did a lot of promotion. They actually had a freelance promoter helping out with that. So it was a really successful promotion effort. And it was a very well-attended event and called a lot of attention to the importance of early literacy, and really inspired me personally, or professionally, I should say, to talk to staff and work towards rebooting our Growing Readers program, which is a preschool literacy program that we've had for years and years, but we need to kind of rebrand and get it out there more because it's just so important. Early literacy is so important, starting with in utero, reading to your child in utero. So yeah, it was a really positive event.
So that's great to hear. Attended. Those are great partners. Wizard Wardrobe and the Red Bookshelf.
That's right, Wizards Wardrobe as well.
Yes. All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, well, statistics.
Okay. As I mentioned, as I started to mention it, our circulation numbers are looking pretty good. We still include that 2019 number, or line, I should say, the green line in the circulation section of this report. We are, right now, it's very, very difficult to see the blue speck that represents 2024 so far. We only have 1 month of data in this year, so you can barely kind of detect that blue dot right above the red line. The red line represents last year's numbers, so we certainly are headed in the right direction across all circulation at APL. Door counts are looking strong as well. Again, we're above where we were at this time last year. The report, or the section of this report that I would also draw your attention to, well, two, program attendance, which is on the bottom of page 2. Program attendance is extremely strong at this point, over where it was in 2019. And I have to think that some of that is related to the weekend programming that we've been able to offer so far this year. So we're hoping to see that line continue to be somewhere near or above the 2019 numbers, because it would bode well for overall program attendance this year. And the incident reports, which I alluded to earlier, are way, way up. So we actually had 70 incidents, and that's why the blue line, or the blue dot is all the way at the top of the chart there. Less than ideal. A lot of these incidents, I mean, I talked about the ones that are connected to people are in groups and actually fighting with each other in the library. And those incidents tend to be short, blessedly. Police have reported pretty quickly to those, especially, if staff mention the fact that there are people fighting, the reporting times tend to be pretty good. A lot of our incidents are non-violent incidents where people are just asking us to call EMS, or we are calling 911 or EMS because we are seeing someone in distress, whether it's medical distress, mental health distress, some type of distress that warrants that call. And so the vast majority, and we also have lots of incidents of people maybe misusing spaces in the library, like someone was smoking in one of the bathrooms here and set off a smoke alarm, resulting in a building-wide evacuation. And that, that qualifies obviously as an incident as well. So whereas no one got injured or it wasn't like a traumatic incident, except for maybe the 4-year-olds who had to evacuate from the ACAP on the 3rd floor, it was not considered a violent incident. So troubling as it was to see that happen. So I wanted to just add that commentary as you're looking at these incident report types.
When it's a group, does that count? Does each person count as an incident? So if you have a group
No.
of 10 people, that's one incident? Or is it?
It's
10
one
incidents?
incident. If it's one fight, it's one fight. So and we haven't, thankfully, it hasn't been like groups of 10. I mean, we had an incident of a fight that took place with like 3 people involved. They were all adults and they were all delivered with loss of library privileges for creating an unsafe environment for everyone.
You mentioned, I think you said, Delaware, that they suffered the damage at the computers. How many computers were damaged?
The computers were not detrimentally damaged. They were definitely abused. I'm not sure if they threw a keyboard or a mouse, but nothing was destroyed that I'm aware of. It was more just like shoving things around and not treating them properly. So I'm happy to say that didn't result in any monetary damage to equipment.
That's what I was wondering, if they yanked it out and threw it at someone, or,
Oh,
a Marley or something. Okay. Have you noticed too, I know you says an uptake in, we only been in with the new hours since November. Has it been taken positively?
yeah, and actually I have a whole update about the new hours a little bit later in the agenda, but I've got some great data to share with you about how that's going.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Staff engagement survey.
Yeah, I'm going to move over to the podium for this one because I have a PowerPoint to share with you.
And while you're doing that, I really appreciate the graphs.
I'm glad.
Graphs are one of my favorite things. They're so colorful.
Okay. Okay. All right. So as you may remember, although there's at least one new board member here. We did a staff engagement survey last year at this time in January. We launched it actually in late December, and it ended in the first or second week in January. So we did the same timing for this year's staff engagement survey, and we also used the same questions by and large. We kind of shaved some of them away just because some of them were very similar to other questions last year. So we did do some shaving down, but what you will see is a direct comparison of last year's question to this year's question, because we kept the ones that we kept intact, if that makes sense. I'm happy to say that compared to last year's survey, more APL employees are feeling positively about working at APL. And they see themselves working here in a year's time and would recommend us as an employer, which is great. More staff are finding their work meaningful. However, some feel it may be insufficient for their overall professional development. And I'll get into kind of how we propose to address that in a little bit. Fewer staff expressed feeling comfortable and supported at APL, and a higher number felt their accomplishments are not recognized by others, which we also have ideas about how to address. In fact, I'm grateful that staff were so honest with us, because this really gives us a lot to work with in terms of establishing our workforce objectives for the year ahead. Safety and security, compensation, staffing levels, communication, mental health, work culture and morale, Washington Avenue branch constraints, clarity and decision-making were also some of the issues raised most often in our write-in responses. So now you're going to get the graphs. How do you feel about working these days in general? Again, saw a nice increase here. If you look at the positive columns, that's looking really, really good compared to last year. Last year was at 25%, and the people who are feeling neutral dropped down to 23%. And we saw decreases in the negative slightly or total negative. So that's a really good slide to see. Do you enjoy working with a specific team? And happily, most of our employees do enjoy working with our specific teams. We also saw a gain in the yes column on that one. Are you proud to work at APL? This one, of course, warms my heart, and it's nice to see that most staff are proud to work at this level. And most staff find their work fairly meaningful. The sometimes, we saw, and this is where some of the comments came up about recognition and what more can we do to recognize the good work that takes place here. And with our new HR generalist and the fact that Melanie's role is now totally dedicated, other than her strict assistant director tasks and duties, her role is devoted to staff support and training. And so I'm really hopeful that between Melanie and our new HR generalist, we're going to come up with a lot more strategies to help staff feel that their work is meaningful and recognized, and that they're challenged in their and that their work challenges them and aids in their development. Do others provide you with recognition? I just touched on this. We see that the majority of staff feel that they are recognized, but we clearly have more work to do given the sometimes, neutral, and no columns that you see. Does your compensation meet your needs? The answer is still no across the board for the most part, but it's not as high as it was last year. And I think that we can draw a direct line between last year's results and what happened with the contract renegotiation. So that's a good reflection of what the new contract has done to help staff feel that they're better compensated than they were before. Does APL's culture foster a comfortable, supportive work environment? Again, mostly yes, sometimes. This is, again, where we have some work to do with recognition and support for our staff. Most staff feel that our managers and leaders are invested in improving the library's culture. We're literally even with what we were last year, and we saw an increase sometimes and other, which it's not totally clear what to make of that, but it's good to see that we haven't seen that go down. Do you see yourself working here in a year? Again, really glad to see that number of yeses increase and the number of maybes drop a little bit. So in terms of what practices we need to change, this was an open field, and I have to thank our public information officer, Stephanie Simon, for helping distill the many open comments that we received in this section of the survey. She pretty much summarized it into these categories of improving communication, and that goes to communicating about policy changes, communicating about whatever decisions are happening that affect staff, improve pay rates. I don't think that one will ever go away fully. I think library workers in general feel underpaid across all libraries in this country. Improving culture and morale is another big one that I alluded to earlier. Assigning appropriate and meaningful duties, improving safety at our locations, hiring more staff, enhancing training opportunities, including staff in decision-making and soliciting feedback from them, and management gaining a better understanding of frontline staff concerns. And that's, again, one where we can take action immediately on that. I mean, I've been personally, I've been doing a lot more walkthroughs of Washington Avenue location
And going out into the branches is something that I want to do on a more regular basis as the year unfolds. So looking forward to doing that, doing more of that while I balance my other duties and responsibilities. Would you recommend us as an employer? Happily, most staff would recommend APL. Is there anything else you would like to share? Of course, this is an essential question that has to be in the survey every year. Is there anything else that we missed asking you? So again, the comments came up about needing a safer work environment. There were lots of positive comments about how much people enjoy and are proud to work here again. There was a call to improve culture and morale, which again I spoke about earlier. A desire to see more training and professional development opportunities, specifically looking at Washington Avenue, addressing safety here at Washington Avenue. I don't know if you noticed when you were on your way in, but we did make some changes actually just this morning to the seating arrangement here on the first floor. It used to be that there were tables and chairs along the corridor on the first floor at Washington Avenue, and we kind of came to know it as the sort of creepy corridor where you know, you walk through and you kind of, there are lots of people just kind of looking at everyone walking past, which is not a super comfortable feeling. It's a little bit better to have seating in one area that that is designated for seating. And I guess the seating that happened along the corridor happened during COVID to keep people socially distanced. So we made a change today to just move all the seating. We didn't decrease it, we just moved all the seating next to the reference area. The sight lines are better there. It was, it looks like a better, more organized, welcoming place, like a cafe seating environment. And the feedback from staff has been great so far. So that's just one step among many other steps that we hope to take to improve the first floor here at Washington Avenue. We're not, you know, we're not going to be able to solve some of the more endemic societal issues, of course, but we can make changes, make real concrete changes to improve the environment here at Washington Avenue. We also need to address employment shortages and hiring roadblocks. So we're again focused on our workforce pipeline, and of course with the relaunch of our volunteer program and seeing our summer youth employment kids come in and our digital navigators, all of that is part of the workforce story. And of course, staff also always want to see those higher wages. And an understanding of the trustee role. So there we go. And we'll be helping staff understand how they can access the trainings that are available through Hudson. If they want to learn more about being a trustee, what it takes, what the expectations are, what your role is, and how you play that role to support the library. So are there any questions about this staff engagement survey? Okay, let's see. Both trustees, Sarah, Trustee Masinski.
So my question is, with, you showed us a lot of broad swipes, but there's some very different roles in staffing at APL. Did any of that get stratified by location, position, or any of that to help target if there's like a specific place that's not doing well?
No,
Specific
but
role?
mainly because this is an anonymous survey and we've got we depended on the staff call outs of specific locations like Washington Avenue, for example, for that kind of detailed data, but we really are invested in keeping this as anonymous as possible. And so while it would be on one hand helpful to know the kind of data that you're describing, that's also a function of the HR department, is to receive those specific to branch complaints or suggestions or comments that can help us strengthen whatever team needs to be strengthened. Does that make sense? Trustee Dallas?
How many people answered this year as compared to last year?
That was my question.
Let me refer back to the summary page here. We had 82 survey respondents, which is actually up 2% from last year. And that represents 75% of staff. So that's nice to see. We did a lot of promotion of this internally, and we look forward to continuing to do that in future staff engagement surveys.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Very detailed. Thank you so much. And thanks for all the staff that participated. Informational items?
Okay, I included a memo for you about the Violence Prevention Task Force that the City of Albany is convening. They are accepting applications. They're due February 20th. And did I mess up the feed there? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So if you look at that memo, I basically outlined that that the application is open to residents of Albany as well as members of violence prevention related organizations. And I happen to qualify as a resident of downtown, but I also qualify as the leader of this violence prevention related organization that is the library. We really do have a pivotal role to play in providing alternatives to violence in the city of Albany. And I am deeply committed to doing everything that I can as the leader of this organization to examine and come up with new kinds of programs and determine with community members, information, the best thing that the library can do to address violence in our community. So I am seeking the board's support in this application process, and that's basically it. I also included the application itself. This whole task force is being run by the Common Council. It's a 2-year term.
I wholeheartedly support your presence on the task force, on the violent prevention task force. Do we make a motion?
Yeah.
All right, anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to support Director Nicolet's application to represent the library on the Violence Prevention Task Force.
Second,
I second.
all in favor? Aye. You're on the task force.
Thank you. I wish that were all it took. Thank you. I don't think it'll hurt at all to have the unanimous support of the members here tonight. And I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, unfinished business, the senior tax exempt update. Bob?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. There is a resolution in board docs that didn't get put in until late, but I wanted to include it tonight just so that we could finalize a plan of action and make a decision as to when you guys want to pull the trigger on this. This resolution is modeled on the school district's resolution, which I've shared a copy of previously. And basically what it does is it has the library adopting the same income eligibility limits that the Board of Education adopted in October. That will put us in alignment with the school district with respect to their tax collection process. And then it has a resolved paragraph where you actually direct staff, Andrea, Adam, et cetera, to take steps to implement the new exemption and issue refunds for the overpayments. We're in a pretty good position now to move forward. I think we've solved a bunch of the logistical issues that we were concerned about. Adam has explored how the process will actually run. He posed a few questions to me about process last month. And you'll see in the last resolved paragraph of the resolution, once the board's ready to act, we will have the board grant the authority to issue the checks separately and apart from a check register so that we don't have to individually list out all of the recipients of these checks in a board meeting. Other than that, I think we're essentially in a position to go forward. This resolution could be passed at any future board meeting that the board's comfortable doing it. And with that, I think we can answer any questions that you may have about, going forward.
Sarah, yes. Trustee Dallas?
I think it's wonderful. I think it makes sense to be in alignment with the school districts for lots of reasons. I think this is doable, but could you repeat what you said, Bob, about the last one? Will there be a number of will there be a physical number there?
Correct,
and the
yeah, it'll
gross
say,
amount?
we're waiting for the final details, but it'll say, 342 checks and the gross amount of $67,000 or whatever the numbers work out to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, the trustees will have access to the list. It's just rather than list individual names, addresses, and refund amounts in a document, we thought we could approve it this way.
Are you all ready to take a vote?
I hadn't anticipated
have-
that you, I hadn't
Right, you don't have
anticipated
the
that the
numbers.
board would vote tonight, but certainly if you're,
No.
if you're ready to, we can, but we don't have those blanks available to us tonight.
No, we'll wait for all information.
Okay. Would the board want us to make this available for the February 28th meeting or
27th.
meeting? Or would you rather do it on the regular March agenda?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, if the numbers could be furnished to us in advance of that meeting, since we're tackling things related to budget and finance, it seems like a compatible discussion item.
Yeah, you can conclude it in
I
February
think we
27th.
could. Yeah, I think we could. It'll take Adam and I coordinating with the school district and getting a final spreadsheet from them, but I think they've already done the calculations for us, so.
And it's the 27th. It's a Tuesday.
2 weeks from tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, we will plan to present this resolution with the final information, assuming we can, at the February 27th meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on to new business, public safety service change.
All right, if you would open the memo, I am proposing an ongoing annual one-day closure of the Washington Avenue branch on the day of the St. Patrick's Day Parade as a public safety measure. This measure can be revisited, reevaluated at any time. But for the last year, we were closed at this location on St. Patrick's Day. That was voted by the board at this time last year. The parade is an annual event. It is a wonderful, positive opportunity for a lot of folks to gather and enjoy parade festivities. But unfortunately, the experience here at this location on parade day has been a negative one for patrons and for staff, mainly because of the limited restroom facilities that we have that are already, as you know, a source of problems and conflict among our regular patrons, let alone the additional patrons that we see typically on parade day. So I also would be happy to share with you if you want a reminder of how we have tried to safeguard Washington Avenue in the past in order to stay open. It involved a lot of effort and money, and it proved to be ineffectual in the end. And so that's why I'm proposing this recurring one-day closure. And we would publicize it, of course, well in advance with signage, media announcements. Of course, we have 2 other locations that are open on Saturdays. We would be planning, and programs have already been planned at both Howe and Pine Hills on that day. So that's the proposal, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Just one quick question that I think I probably know the answer. The staff that would be working at Washington Ave get sent to other branches, correct?
Accurate, yes. And it would also enhance any outreach opportunities that are available in the city on that day. I mean, the parade isn't the only thing that happens in Albany on that day. So if there are other outreach opportunities that other organizations have, we could be that much more prepared to send staff out to those.
And, all right,
I was just reminded that you don't have a microphone, but do you want to? Okay.
and this is, I know we're looking to approve it tonight, but is it, we're not gonna, we can revisit it next year? Are we doing it? That we're saying, that we are approving for every year, subsequently every year happening, or just this year and we revisit it next year?
The motion that I proposed is a motion to close the Washington Avenue branch annually on the day of the St. Patrick's Day Parade unless and until conditions improve from a public safety standpoint.
Well, how are we going to know if it improves if we're not open? I mean, how can you?
I think, that's a great question. And I think that we would be looking at overall incident reports and the numbers of incident reports specifically at this location to gauge whether or not conditions have improved in the general population and then revisit it from there. But that said, of course, any motion language that supports the intent of the board is.
I think I would option to revisit it in a. So for the day, 16th, and then we would revisit it again this time next year.
Okay, that would mean that you would basically see a similar memo this time next year and evaluate on that basis. Got it.
Especially with the high, like you said, like incidents have been really, I just feel like maybe we wait and see what happens.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
So do we know if the city itself is trying to make any improvements in how they're running the parade or, the number of bathrooms that are available? Are they making any changes? Because I think that might influence the decision going forward is if the city seems to be taking significant action in trying to improve.
I know that just hearing about some of those self-cleaning porta potty things that are on their way here. Wait, we're getting them? Oh, sorry. Yes. So there will be. Could you talk
She has
into the mic?
insight.
Oh, sorry, yes.
She has inside information.
There will be just a little inside information. There will be, I think, 2 or 3 of them. That's what we're starting. So I'm not sure if it'll be here in time for this, but that's why I'm saying if we make the motion for this year and then revisit it again in a year, I know that those things are coming down the pike.
That is really exciting.
I was thinking.
I get inordinately excited at the thought of additional public restrooms that people have access to in the city of Albany. So it's great to hear that. Thank you, Trustee Robinson. I have not heard, to answer your question, Trustee Brzezinski, I have not heard any updated information about plans the city has to add like a strip of porta pots or something like that. If I do learn of something along those lines, you could always, I could always supply that information over email and you could change the decision at the February 27th meeting if you wanted to. So, but I don't think that is the case. And it all does come down to the bathrooms and the traffic in this branch and the, increased risk.
Any other discussion?
Do you need a motion to revise this motion? Or just,
Yes. Yes. So you'd like to make a motion?
Oh, sure. I make a motion that we revise the resolution, right?
we just need to say the new language.
Oh, okay. So I make a motion that we move to close for the 1-day closure for September, Jesus, for Saturday, March 16th, and then we revisit it next year for the closure for the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
May I have a second? Trustee Dallas seconds. All in favor?
Thank you.
the new service hours quarterly update.
Okay, so it's been 3 months since the hours changed in our library system, and that happened on November 7th, 2023. So it is the appropriate time for a quarterly update on the new hours. And as I indicated in the memo that's attached to this item in board docs, there are lots and lots of ways to there are lots of ways to measure how a library is doing in a community. And one of them is circulation, of course. Another is Wi-Fi sessions. There are all sorts of different metrics that we have available to us. For the purpose of this first quarterly report, we chose to examine weekend door counts by branch service area, comparing the period from last year, November 2022 to January 2023, with November 2023 to January 2024. So I want to note a few things before you look at the data. Our hours changed on that first, after that first weekend in November. So that means that the first weekend of November isn't included in the data that you're going to see. Next, the Arbor Hill, West Hill, Bach, and Delaware total door counts, for November, December 2022 and January 2023 represent the total attendance at those branches for Saturday and Sunday, whereas this most recent November, December, and January totals represent the door counts for the Sunday hours only. And I mentioned that because obviously there is a drop off, but I'll get to that in the data. Washington Avenue branch Saturday hours remain the same. Before and after the hours changed, there was no difference there, but Howe and Pine Hills actually gained 2 service hours on Saturdays, as you know. We went from being open 12 to 5 at those 2 locations to being open 10 to 5. Our regularly scheduled Saturday programming started in November 2023. That was, of course, one of the dreams that we had with the new hours change, providing those regular weekend opportunities for working families to attend library programs, story times, kids programs, adult programs, and we've been offering those since we started the new hours in November. And I'm happy to say that weekend library attendance overall has seen net gains since the new hours went into effect. And you can see that on the next page. Weekend door count totals by branch. And we still group the service areas by the large branch and the smaller branch in each district. And North Albany, of course, is not included in this list simply because North Albany does not have weekend hours at this time. So Washington Avenue is paired with Arbor Hill, West Hill, Pine Hills is paired with Bach, and Howe is paired with Delaware. I want to draw your attention to the last column there, service area net gain. That number represents the increase in door counts in that service area on the weekend from 2022 to 2023. So those numbers are looking really good right now. They're not all good. I would draw your attention to the January 2023 to January 2024 difference for Washington Avenue and Arbor Hill, West Hill, where we saw a net negative of 111. However, all that means is that we need to, adjust one of the things that means is that we need to adjust our programming. And, it also could be that the effect of the incidents that we've had at this branch in December had an impact in January. We simply don't know why that number is a net loss as opposed to all the other numbers across these months that have been net gains. And, wildly different in January, Washington Avenue and Arbor Hill, West Hill, as opposed to December, where we saw a 648 person net gain. So, that's obviously an area we're going to keep our focus on and continue to try to figure out what the winning formula is for attendance. Are there any questions on these numbers before you go to the graph?
Most of the snowstorms happened over the weekends.
That's interesting. That could be part of it.
I was thinking weather.
Yeah, that could certainly be part of it because across the board, we saw lower numbers of net gains in the district in January as opposed to November, December. So yeah, that is a very good guess.
On page 3, you'll see just a visual representation of what's in the graph or in the chart, basically. And they're side by side attendance numbers. And again, this is total weekend attendance for each month.
Mm.
So as we move on with these hours and, I continue to put together quarterly updates for the board, I would invite, whatever other metrics you would like to see, whether it's, program attendance specifically, the kinds of programs that we're offering, the age groups that we're targeting. There's a lot of data to mine. I just thought this was the strongest, picture, just since so much focus and so much of the advocacy was around weekend attendance at the libraries. This was what I chose to show this time.
So graphs and data. So based on quick sketch paper, phone calculator calculations, it looks like overall in November, weekend attendance increased 30%. And you had shown earlier in the previous presentation of statistics on how the numbers overall have gone up of people using the library. How much, and because I don't have them all here together, I can't do that, but do you know how much of that growth that we saw earlier can be attributed to this growth in weekend door change?
No, but I think that's a number that we can figure out. Melanie pulls the statistics for door counts across the system every month, and we could simply, well, maybe not simply, but we could break down weekday attendance and look at weekday attendance versus weekend attendance and do it that way. Melanie, do you have anything to add to the statistics commentary here? Right. Just
So it sounds like weekday usage isn't changing that much, but weekend usage is. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to see the age groups that you're targeting. To see if families are taking advantage of the programming and how much participation, especially like at each branch. I know that was a bit of a contention at Bach. We had some couple public comments, so I would like to see how that's faring.
Absolutely. I can present the program attendance data. I mean, would you want like 6 months worth? I mean, would you want me to report out on that for the next quarterly report?
No, the next three. Well, the next three would be the 6 month mark, right? So just the next three.
Absolutely. Then we'll have a nice 6 month span of data to look at. So it'll be that much more interesting.
I know that, and I feel like I shouldn't counter President Pryor. But if you could actually not just do like the next 3 month span, but include so you can see a little bit more longitudinal changes and get the whole 6 month picture and not just individual 3 month pictures. I mean, yes, I like the little 3-month pictures too. But I think the big picture, you know, you're going to see more of a trend in 6 months than you will in a snapshot of 3 months.
Yeah, definitely. I can absolutely do that.
Thank you. Long as we see the ages, I don't care how many times we do it. I just want to see the ages in the program.
Great.
Thank you. Any other comment? Thank you so much. All right. Okay, summer Sunday hours proposal.
So this is a direct response to some of the public comments that came in early on when we changed hours. And by the way, I would also add to the new hours update, although we've moved on in the agenda. However, I want to note that I have not received additional public comments about the new hours since that first few that happened when they went into effect, which I also consider to be a sign that the community is receptive to the new hours. The summer Sunday hours proposal, I attached a memo for that as well. And basically we're proposing year-round service hours at the Arbor West Hill branch, the Bach branch, and the Delaware branches on Sundays. So we would be proposing to be open 1 to 5 p.m. on Sundays in July and August, which I don't think has ever happened at APL, and let alone Upper Hudson. So that would be a huge move toward equitable library services for Albany, because the reasons that we were closed in July and August have changed. I mean, we have a way to schedule the appropriate staffing levels on those Sundays in July and August, and maintaining those year-round hours support both our diversity, equity, inclusion, and access strategic plan goal and our sustainability strategic plan goal. I mean, we've seen the effects of climate change, and I touched on both of those strategic plan goals in my memo. But when it comes to, I'll go back to DEIA for a second. All of our patrons, including those who prefer Arbor Hill, West Hill, Bach, and Delaware, would enjoy Sunday access to those branches year-round. This proposal being approved. The year-round Sunday library hours also offer access to a range of faith communities, because there are faith communities that don't attend the library on Saturdays. In terms of sustainability goals, all of our branches are registered in the City of Albany as cooling centers. And so if our 3 Sunday branches are open in July and August, residents obviously would have access to those cooling centers during the hottest months of the year. And I would add, at the hottest time of the day on those days. Opening on Sundays year-round is also financially sustainable. So our payroll budget already covers the cost of the salaried staff who are in the Sunday schedule rotation. And we can also currently absorb the costs associated with hiring on-call library staff. And finally, our contract with CSEA does not preclude union staff from being scheduled on Sundays in July. So any questions about this proposal?
Do I hear a motion? Sarah Dallas?
I'd like to make a motion to approve year-round Sunday service hours, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Arbor Hill, West Hill, Bach, and Delaware branches.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you. I also included an updated schedule of services document that that we will proceed to kind of update and post on the website and everywhere else that it needs to be. We have a lot of hours, flyers, and so forth, signage throughout the system, so we'll need to update all of that. But yeah, something we'll start doing now. We have also plenty of time to adjust the schedules, which is a benefit for the staff who will be impacted by this change. Thank you. Yeah, and I don't think that needs a board vote at all. That's just a an update and edit to the schedule of services. So I don't think that would require.
I just had a question, just out of curiosity. All your branches will be open on the following holiday, regular hours. Are those floaters for the staff?
Not exactly. Because 2 holidays were added with the most recent contract negotiation, the number of floating holidays for union staff is now 2, and they're issued in January. And that's how that works.
Right, okay. All right. All right, thank you. Now, this is just an informational. We don't have to we don't have to vote on this.
Voted on the summer Sunday hours proposal, and we'll just update the schedule of services as a administrative step associated with that. So all set.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Quarterly, it's quarterly time. Again, so we have our quarterly board evaluation. Pass them out. And if you would be so kind to fill these out and return them to Erica. Or have them by the time, February 27th when we meet again. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Not about this, but I just want to say thank you so much for those detailed memos that go with the motions. It really answers a lot of questions and it's very well thought out and it's appreciated.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments? All right, there is no need for executive session. A motion? Ask for a motion. Yeah.
I motion to adjourn.
Trustee Robinson seconds, all in favor? Aye. Beat my time from last week.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Bob.
Good night.
Have a nice day.